Hey everybody, what's going on? Emo Tempest here, and I'm back with the latest, I guess, anniversary box or collection. I guess this is the Dissidia Final Fantasy Collection box 2023. This was actually very anticipated by a lot of us. It's got a lot of reprints that I'm excited to go into. It's actually got a lot of new cards. It's kind of like the custom starter deck that we've gotten in the past. I believe it was Final Fantasy X, where you have a pre-built deck inside that's functioning. I believe it's fire and ice to start off with, and then you have about a couple of extra, a handful of cards to get in here so you can make it your own. This is just an updated rulebook. And I believe this is the page that gives us the customization, just like the custom starter deck went on. So you have the starting fire deck, starting ice deck, and then you have customization with wind and a few extra cards there. Plus, it comes with, like I said, the legendaries and a few reprints, which we'll get into as we go on. But yeah, so really quick, just to highlight some of these things, this is the first of 4, I believe, before we get back into the competitive season of products. We're looking at this, 2 sets, and I believe another starter deck at the beginning of next year. So, but yeah. So here we have the deck on the right and some of the bonus cards on the left. But yeah, the whole thing revolves around Dissidia Final Fantasy. So there's going to be a lot of... It's gonna have all the characters, right? The protagonist, the antagonist, and then everything in between. And then some of them will be wearing their, alternate costumes or whatnot. I'm not gonna lie, it took me a little bit to open it, so had to make a quick edit there. But yeah, as always, the release tab is on the side of it, so make sure you do that before you damage the cards. But this is gonna be a very interesting starter, if you will, because it has a lot of potential. It does a lot of interesting plays. It does revolve around crystals, considering we just got our reprints, I believe, a set ago, within the last 2 sets anyway, if not 20 then 19. And all of these cards usually generate crystals or use crystals extensively to do a lot of interesting plays. But yeah, so it's exciting. I think this year, or at least within this next 2 sets, and probably the beginning of the early season, might be crystal dependent. I know we're getting limit breaks before the competitive season, so that might also be something. That's for a different video, so make sure to stay tuned for that. I just want to point out, because I don't think I do it later in the video, we got Kate Sith reprints. It didn't make sense to me at first, but obviously they're Dissidia Final Fantasy cards, so they are searchable now, which we'll get into a bit, but had a couple of interesting cards. But anyway, yeah, so let's get all this good stuff together, and let's put it down, and let's get started. How about that? First, we have Bartz, Wanderer, Warrior of Light. When Bartz enters the field, you may search for a category Dissidia Final Fantasy character other than Light or Dark, and add it to your hand. Also gain a crystal. Remove Bartz in the break zone from the game, gain a crystal. You can only use this ability if you control 2 or more DFF forwards, and if Bartz is in your break zone. So the first part is actually really interesting. I was hoping we'd finally had, a Cosmo or Chaos Searcher, but that's okay. The character part, like I said, we just got the Kate Sith. That's one of many. There's tons of Dissidia Final Fantasy backups and forwards and stuff that you can search off of this. So this is going to be like the main piece, or if you will, for this starter deck or this whole engine. So if you're, looking for ways to, trying to fill it in with some of the other Light or Dark cards, I don't think you'll be able to. Next we have Furion. When Furion enters the field, choose a forward, deal it 3,000 damage. If you control 2 or more Dissidia Final Fantasy forwards, deal it 7,000 damage instead. When a character your opponent controls is put from the field into the break zone, gain a crystal. This effect will only trigger once per turn. The damage is very subpar. This is like where all of the Fire Furions live, in that 3 to 7 range. So, and then its contingency, I guess, of needing 2 is a little underwhelming. It will be easy to do in this deck, but it is very like weak. The gaining a crystal though is very nice. So even if it's from an effect or something, as long as you're able to send one of theirs from the field to the break zone, you'll gain a crystal this turn. So that is very good. As you can see already, Bartz and Firion already have ways to generate crystals. So there's a lot of things happening soon. Next we have Cloud. You can pay 2 crystals instead of paying the CP cost to cast Cloud. When Cloud enters the field, choose a forward, deal it 3,000 damage for each category DFF forward you control. So that is an EX burst on the second effect, which is very nice. Just as you're going, being able to play him as you're tapping out to deploy the forwards should make that second effect very easy to make live, if you will. There's a lot of again, this whole deck is DFF, right? And then we already have a ton of DFF characters. We're not going to go through all of those in this video, but stay tuned and look forward to the deck profile probably by next week. But yeah, again, so the main idea is here you'll kind of tap out to play the other cards and then just pay 2 crystals to bring him in to kill something else. So, and he is 5 for 9 EX bursts. We love that about this card. Not a fan of the art, obviously, but that's okay. All right, next is Onion Knight. Haste. When Onion Knight enters the field, you may pay 2 crystals. When you do so, search for a category DFF forward of cost 3 or less and play it onto the field. Sword and Sorcery S, deal 10,000 damage to a forward that blocks Onion Knight. He's an Onion Knight and a Warrior of Light. This card's very, very interesting. I like that it uses 2, crystals to search out a forward. There's a few of them that we're gonna see in here, other than the Firion, obviously. And then there's obviously a few that that are already out. We have 20 sets like of random DFF characters. The Sword and Sorcery is interesting. It's very readable, I guess, but it is one way to just kind of like get obstacles out of your way, just force him to attack, and then your opponent has to block. But yeah, next is Noctis. Noctis, 3 cost, Prince, must control a category DFF forward to cast Noctis. EX Burst. When Noctis enters the field, choose a dull forward your opponent controls and break it. He's 9k. I like this card a lot for a lot of reasons. Obviously, the EX Burst is very simple, not too complicated. I like that he's Prince. He's a new Sarah search in the Ice Water color combination, which I always felt was lacking options. So this is very good for us. I don't think it helps particularly a 15 deck, but there's stranger decks have been built, so maybe that'll be useful there. I think it's just a great card. You obviously have to deploy forwards, and he's pretty much live right away. So I think he's just going to be an exceptional card. Should easily find a place in this deck. Terra. When Terra enters the field, your opponent discards 1 card. If you control 2 or more category DFF forwards, also gain a crystal. For a crystal, tap, choose a forward, dull it, and freeze it, and draw a card. So this is like a power creep version of the Opus 1 Sarah. It was 3/7, same power stats, and it would just, when it enters the field, your opponent discards a card. We used to love that card, and we used to always play this. This just does a little more now, and has a little more options. So just like some of the other, just like, I don't want to say like Soiree, but kind of, this deck has options to discard and do a lot of very interesting like toolbox style plays. Next is Shantoto. When Shantoto enters the field, you may pay 2 crystals. When you do so, choose a category DFF forward of 5 or less in your break zone, play it onto the field. And for a copy of Shantoto and an ice, choose up to 3 characters, dull them, and freeze them. Cards like that Cloud are gonna get get deployed or get cast for 2 crystals regardless, and then some of the other options as well. The S ability is very nice. It's not as good as the other Shantoto that we just got in this thing, where it dulls all your forwards for 1 crystal, but it is definitely very good. Not a lot of effects go target up to 3 for a dull and freeze, and this one's, we have enough Shantotos to mess around with, so solid card. I also think will be played. I like the ice a little more than the rest of this than the rest of the other elements so far. I think the Shantotto and the Y'shtola, which we'll talk about shortly, as well as the Noctis, are very solid. Here we have some of the new cards: the Warrior of Light, the Cecil, and the Titus. And as we go through some of the other stuff, it has the wind, crystal generators. The Terra I thought was interesting because it's a starter deck reprint. These are the two legendaries, the Squall and the Zidanes, which I'm looking for, but they're up ahead. We got two reprints of those. The Zidane we've had enough already, I think, and then because I believe it's been in starters before or whatnot. And then we have two non-foil crystals. They feel and look worse than they might be on this video, so I'll leave that up to you guys. Here's the Y'shtola I was talking about. So it is a hero from the next set. We do have a non-foil full art here, so I'm excited to see the whole thing foil in the next set. And the handful of legendaries that we got reprints of. But like I was saying, I thought I was under the impression that we were going to get two of these, but yeah. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and separate these, the new cards, and then we're going to go ahead and take a look at the new, the reprints, just so we could talk about them for a bit. So I was originally really hyping this because I thought there was two of each, how we got in the past, like in the anniversary collection, excuse me. But it turns out it's only one of each, and it is the full like a common version of the full art. Right, so you'll notice the Warrior of Light had his little border, I think. Cecil's a big deal. Bard's, Terra as well. The Cloud, the Squall that we got, and Zidane, which is really nice, just came out. Titus, which is my favorite. The Shantotto, and then you see the Vaughn here has the border. So that's very interesting. Lightning, which we've already had before. The Y'shtola that we saw, that we just talked about. And then Noctis, Ramza, and Ace. So couple of really good cards. Again, I was under the impression that there would be two of each, but unfortunately it is only one of each. The ones that you get two of, and I went back and looked, which was the Squall and the Zidane. So let's get on. Y'shtola. If your opponent has two cards or less in their hand, Y'shtola gains haste, and when Y'shtola attacks, choose a forward your opponent controls, deal it 9,000 damage minus 1,000 damage for each card in your opponent's hand. Now, I think this card is good no matter what. I could be wrong, but just the fact that she's going to deal damage, this is something that Ice doesn't have particularly, and so it's very helpful. The fact that it's a Scion, super off color, makes it weird, but we are going to get that Scion light card. That's a big deal later. But this card's very interesting, has a lot of potential, I think. You would have to focus obviously more on the discard. I think this one's going to make its way into Ice Lightning decks the way they are now. Again, I could be wrong, but I see a lot of potential for this. It might even open up a different avenue for Ice Lightning, something that revolves around dealing more damage than just straight breaking. But hopefully we get the full art of that in the next set. Alright, next is going to be Warrior of Light. When Warrior of Light or a category DFF forward enters the field, gain a crystal. This effect will trigger only once per turn. Until the end of the turn, Warrior of Light gains plus 1,000, and Warrior of Light cannot be chosen by your opponent's abilities. So this and Bart's is just going to be tons of crystals per turn. I think Warrior of Lights, aside from DFF, are going to get a big pump from this, because there's a lot of new Warriors of Light. So they're all searchable by regular Warrior of Light means, and it might add a lot of versatility to those decks. So hopefully, I'm assuming a lot of these will find homes. Just depends on what we can do with these crystals. Next is Cecil. Cecil cannot be chosen by your opponent's abilities. If Cecil is dealt damage by your opponent's ability, that damage becomes 0 instead. Category DFF forwards other than Cecil you control gain 2,000 power. And then for S and a win, choose a forward, cost 4 more, break it. This one's very. I a lot of my teammates have been talking about this one. I don't see it. I don't see the potential in it just yet. I'll be honest. I know that we have a Cecil that can bring it out from the deck. the new Dark Cecil. I'm sorry, the new Earth Cecil, who's a Dark Knight or whatever. But it's another option for that. Sure, the not being able to target by abilities, we have a lot of cards that do that already, and they don't see too much play. Obviously, they're always like a problem, but hopefully this one gets to see some more play. Titus, EX Burst. When enters the field, choose a forward your opponent controls, return it to its owner's hand. When a forward your opponent controls is returned from the field to its owner's hand, draw a card and gain a crystal. This effect will only trigger once per turn. Yeah, it's just it's a normal EX Burst for a Titus that we've seen in the past. He's Guardian and Blitzballer, so searchable. I love that him and Tros just together means like 2 cards, a crystal, and so much more. So I think he's also gonna find a separate home, which I'm excited about. He's very good. 10 is obviously like a favorite around here, so we gotta do more with this Titus. But yeah, guys, I think that's all of them. Competitively, right now, I can't put it all together, but I will be working on a deck list. Something to show you, something that could possibly showcase what you can do with some of these cards and talk about some of the lines in a different video. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, please let me know what you think. Are you guys excited to try this Dissidia stuff, or did you just want to buy this for the reprints? Are you bummed out that you only got one of these each, like I am, or not? Anyway, go ahead and leave all of those answers in the comments below. I'm excited to get into working with these. You know, some of these I don't use, but having an extra Zidane and Cecil and Toto is going to be good. The Noctis actually might make its way back too, for me. But yeah, thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. And be on the lookout for the next couple of videos. And that's it. Have a good one.